I have the absolute privilege of meeting Charlotte Ryan, a hilarious lady who has been through the absolute ringer with IBD and her bowels exploding and doctors turning her away again and again and again until the absolute critical point where whether it was ride or die. This is an amazing interview full of twists and turns and a true inspirational story of survival and seeing the funny side of everything to just cope with just the most incredibly shit situations. You will not want to miss this. And if you are a woman who is struggling with IBD or struggling to get the doctors to actually listen to you and take you seriously, this is the interview for you. You will learn all about little things about the different medications that worked for Charlotte and which ones didn't, and a few things that you need to be aware of if you're being put on steroids. This is an incredible story of resilience, perseverance, and just having the best sense of humor. It's a great interview, guys. You're gonna love it. So I'll get off the screen and you can crack on. I'm confused. So, Jali, tell me a little bit more about your story, because it seems like a hell of a roller coaster with your IBD and your stomas and everything like that. I mean, because you have Crohn's, right?
Well, yes. Well, I don't know. They don't know. Okay. They think I've got both. I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis in 2020, a mild ulcerative colitis, a very small section of in my rectum. And then between 2020 and 2022 I was fine. I was on the lowest grade meds, nothing really going on. And then 2022 I don't even know what happened. Like I cannot even tell you what happened. I just progressively got sick really, really rapidly. I was on no biologics, nothing. And I was going to the toilet maybe 40 times a day. I was bleeding horrendously. I would literally just be sat here right where I am now in my little nook in the sofa. And I've got like a downstairs toilet, which is probably about 50 feet from here. And I would be crawling because I couldn't stand up. All that stuff on my face came up, all the ulcers, and unfortunately I just was given steroids from the hospital and sent away, and it got to the point where I was like, I'm just not even going to go to hospital anymore because they just give me steroids and send me away. And one night, the one thing that really kicked it off was I remember coming out of my bedroom because I needed the toilet for like the 15th time of the night. And I had this pain go through my body. I've got quite a high pain threshold, but it was like, it went through me and I thought I actually can't breathe. And I was holding like either side of my landing. And I was like, and I screamed at my husband at the time. And I was like, help me, I can't move. And he was like, what the hell? And I was covered in my own poo because I'd lost control of my bowels. I'd wet myself. Like I was it was pretty grim, actually. It was pretty horrendous. And he's like, let's get you to A&E. And I was like, no, I'm not going because I'll just end up sitting on the floor for 7 hours. I'm not doing it. Yeah. And so the next day I went to my GP and I got in there. My now ex-husband took me there. And he brought me in because I couldn't walk. So he was basically having to carry me like a baby everywhere because I just couldn't stand up. And they said to me, right, we'll do all your obs. And they said, we need to call an ambulance. And I was like, sorry? They said, your heart rate is like 208, I think it was, that you're tachycardic. You need to go. God. Yeah. And I was like, what do you mean? They said, you need to go to hospital right now. And I was like, okay. So I went to hospital. And that was in October, and all this stuff on my face, they were saying to me, we think you've got monkeypox, so we're going to quarantine you. And I was like, sorry? So they quarantined me for 2 weeks, and I wasn't allowed to, nobody's allowed to come visit me. And all this time, my IBD is getting worse and they're trying to give me enemas and but they were like, well, we can't give you steroids in case it's monkeypox. And I was like, it's not that. I'm telling you, it's nobody was listening. When it came back, the test was negative, as we knew it would be. I was like, I've not left my house for nearly 2 months. We've not been abroad. The likelihood of me having monkeypox is like very, very minimal. Anyway, after the 2 weeks, they gave me steroids. Again, that cleared me up for a little while. And as soon as the dosage got low, it went back up again. And then, so that was in October. It was probably this time. Yeah, it's probably about this time that I was in hospital in 2023, April 23. And it was a bit of a build-up. I'd gone in, they put me on infliximab. And I'd gone in for an infusion one day. And I said, I just feel so unwell, like really poorly. And the nurse said, the doctor wants me to take your blood and do an urgent test before we can give you the infliximab. And I was like, okay. So they did that, and she came back, she said, your CRP's at like 220, which is like crazy high. And I was like, right. And she said, we can't give you the infliximab. He wants to see you. And I was in a wheelchair at this point because I physically couldn't stand up. And I can't remember seeing him that day. And I'll tell you the other part of this story after, but I can't remember seeing him that day. And I just remember him telling me, we need to admit you to hospital. And I was like, no, I'm not going. And he said to me, Charlotte, you will quite possibly lose your life if you don't if you don't stay here. And I refused, and I went home.
Wow.
And yeah, and the next day, my best friend, who is my neighbour, she came around with a sleeping bag and she said, go to hospital, you need to go. And I was like, I'll go in the morning. She said, I'm sleeping here until you go. And I was like, okay. So I didn't go that night. I went the next morning, and I didn't leave until I had my stoma, basically. And so it was all a bit, it was mad, like that whole sort of build up, but the build up to the stoma, because most people go through lots of biologics, but my body just wasn't responding. I was too sick by that point. And then once we'd had the stoma and I sort of gathered the information as to what had actually happened and what had gone wrong, because it was just so mad. The doctor that saw me that first time when I'd refused to go to hospital, now he is a professor and he specialises in IBD, specifically Crohn's and ulcerative colitis, not microscopic, but the regular version. He said to me, I saw him in June. So apparently he used to come and he was doing a lot of the overseeing of what was happening. But there was another doctor, Susie Pomfret, who I'll come on to in a minute, who was a guardian angel. He was sort of working with her behind the scenes. So I didn't actually see him. So all he remembers is me in that wheelchair being absolutely awful to him. And I was awful. And he told me that. So when I went to see him in the June after my surgery, I was sat in the waiting room, and he called my name and I stood up, and I remember his face just dropped to the floor, and like he looked at me and I could see tears in his eyes, and then I was crying because I was like, why is he crying? And I walked over to him and he was like, I cannot believe this is you. He said, I just can't believe that's you. And I was like, oh my God, I feel amazing. I'm like living my best life. So I'm like,
I love that.
And he was like, Charlotte, he said, you have gone from this cantankerous, he said, you were quite awful, actually. Like you were refusing everything. And he said, I understand why. He said, on paper, he said, you were so sick that you were so malnourished. Your albumin was so low that basically, apparently it shuts all your organs down in your body. It was like your brain was shutting down. So you were so irrational. And coupled with the fact that you just didn't want to be in hospital because you felt that you'd been let down before. Yeah. And I was like, yeah. He said, but seeing you here now, he said, it's just wild. And I was like, oh, I'm going back to work next month. And he was like, are you sure you should be going back to work? And I was like, yeah, fine.
When you've been that bad and then you're like, no, I feel like I'm unstoppable, isn't it? It's just
yeah. This was only like 4 weeks post surgery, and I was like, yeah,
congratulations, good on you.
you know, and it was great. But it was just the most backwards part of it all was that I remember they said to me, "Oh, what we're going to have to do." I don't know. I think I should probably start. Susie Pomfret, the doctor, the little guardian angel. My God, she was an absolute legend. She's just, I remember her. I don't know how she got there. I can't really remember. There's parts of the story that I can't really remember, but I just remember her being there. And I remember crying to her and saying, I can't do this anymore. I can't keep being put on steroids and sent away. I was like, I'm so ill. I need help. And she was like, it's okay. I was like, I don't know what this is on my face. And she was like, right. And I remember her wheeling me round each department in the hospital. And she was demanding that these doctors see me and like help me. She was gastro. And she literally took me step by step through everything. And I just fell in love with her, like completely trusted her. She was just amazing.
Incredible. Absolutely.
She brought her daughter up to the hospital to come and visit me on the weekends because I was so frantic. And she came in one day, she sat next to me, she went, what are you watching? I said, Real Housewives. And she said, right. She said, listen, you are very, very sick. We need to put you on TPN to build you up. And she said, now, I don't know how you feel about this. She said, but we're going to have to go and give you a colonoscopy today. But I feel like what we're going to find is that you're going to need a colostomy, a temporary one to let your bowel rest and everything else. And I was like, I said, I just need 2 days. I don't want to see anyone. I don't want to see my family. I don't want to see my friends. I just want to be on my own just to process it. Fine. After 2 days, I was fine. I was like, right, that's fine. Let's just do this. Like, she said, Charlotte, I promise you in 2 weeks' time after this operation, you'll feel amazing. And I was like, and I just trusted her implicitly. And I was like, fine. She took me for the scope and she was like, oh, it's bad in there. Like, it's bad. She said, your bowel's dead, basically. Like, it's just not working.
Yeah.
It was grey. I remember looking at the screen and thinking, ooh, that's not pink. You know, it was pretty bad.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I don't know if I like the look of that. And so she said, right, that's fine. We'll do the surgery. She said, but I want to keep you on this TPN for 2 weeks. Like, we need to build you up. They give me vitamin injections. They were like, just eat and eat. I was losing weight rapidly. And so she's like, just eat whatever you want, whenever you want. And I was like, okay, great. So I did everything they told me to do. I was drinking all my shakes and I was feeling better because they were pumping me full of all sorts of, I don't even know what. And they said, right, we'll do the surgery on Thursday. Now, this was on the Tuesday, but we need to take you for a MRI just so we can have a look at your bowel and, you know, get everything prepped for surgery. I was like, yeah, cool, fine. Getting the MRI scanner, and I love the MRI scanner. I fall asleep in it. I don't know why.
No, the first time I had it as well, they were like, oh, bring your headphones and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, I was just listening to a podcast. And I was like, this is literally like time that I can just chill the fuck out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm fucking loving this. Loving it. I was like, oh yeah. And I just remember then this pain, honestly, childbirth, nothing on this. Like, it was fucking, honestly, I thought I'm going to die. Like, I just remember thinking I'm going to die. And I pressed the button and I come flying out the scanner. And that's all I remember until there was like all these doctors, I just remember them like all in my face. And the doctor that I loved, she was going, Charlotte, it's having in mind I'd been in hospital 3 weeks at this point. Yeah. And they're all like, Charlotte, and they all know me. And they was like, on a scale of 1 to 10, what's your pain? And I was like, 100. It's fucking horrendous. I was screaming. And I remember the doctor going, if Charlotte Shane's saying she's in pain, it's fucking bad. Well, she didn't say fucking, but she said it's really bad. And then all I remember was waking up on the ward. And like my ex-husband was there at the time. There's paperwork, there's doctors and nurses everywhere. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? And I was going, I'm covered in shit. Like I was covered. And they were like, Charlotte, is there like, you need to go for surgery? And I was like, what fucking surgery? Like, what the fuck is going on?
Oh my God.
And they were like, your bowel's perforated. So that's what had happened in the scanner. And then I ended up waking up 8 hours later because I had as well, just to add a bit of insult to injury, I had 2 ovarian cysts as well. One that was the size of a rugby ball and one that was the size of an orange. So they had to remove my right ovary at the same time. They had to get through all of that to then get to my bowel, to then do the ileostomy. So I woke up with I've got an endoleostomy. So they had to do more than what they thought. And I woke up with that. And I was like, okay. But apparently I remember the first thing I said was when I woke up in recovery, I was like, I'm alive. I'm alive. Like that. And everyone was laughing.
What a fucking ride, mate.
It was great. But it was I don't even know what to say about it. I think I was fine. I was pretty chilled until the anaesthetic wore off, and nobody prepares you for that.
No,
nobody prepares you. Oh my God. Now, I'm pretty happy and stoic person 90% of the time. But on day 3, after I'd woken up from that surgery, and I'd woken up and my legs were like in those compression things. So my legs were restricted. Yeah. I had catheters in both arms feeding me with I don't even fucking know what. I couldn't sit up because I'd had open surgery. So I was basically just laying there and couldn't move.
Yeah.
And I was in a hell of a state. And I remember laying there and I was listening to the Beatles, Let It Be. And I used to listen to that over and over again. And John Denver, which my granddad used to sing to me when I was a little girl, the Pony song. And I used to just listen to it over and over again, just think, just fucking get through this. Like, you can get through it.
Yeah.
And day 3 that night, oh my God, I can laugh about it now, but fucking hell, I remember how I felt at the time. And I felt so sick. And I remember I couldn't reach the button to call the nurse because I couldn't reach anything. And I turned my head and I was projectile vomiting, but it was like all bile and it was bouncing off. I'm laughing now. It's not fucking funny, but it was bouncing off the hospital bar bed, the bar bits on the side.
Yeah.
And it was repelling in my fucking face, in my eyes. So then I was covered in sick. And I remember thinking, I can't fight this. Like, I can't fight anymore. I just remember. And then I don't, you probably can't put this bit in here because it's fucking not right, but I'll tell you anyway. I'm a vapor and I dropped my vape on the floor.
You were allowed to vape in hospital. That would be my first question.
No, you're not.
Oh, yeah,
but I was. Like, I was.
Okay.
And this probably, like, I was. And they fucking knew it as well, because I just didn't care. Because I was like, you've kept me in it for so long. Yeah. And so I was trying to get my vape and I managed to get it. I like clawed it up with my monkey feet. got it up. And I just remember laying there and I was thinking, oh man, this is like the lowest point of my fucking life. Like, it was so bad. Like, it was so bad. And the thought that the dark places that I went, like, over those next couple of days it was bad. Like, I couldn't look at my stoma. I hated, like, everything. And then I'm a great believer in that people are put in your life for a reason, like, and that things happen
100%
because that they're meant to. And there was this lady that was opposite me, and every now and then she'd try to make conversation with me, and I just was not there yet. Like, I was not ready to talk at all. And I think it was probably the next day after I'd been sick, and she was like, are you going to get out of bed this morning? I remember thinking, fuck off. Fuck off. No, I'm fucking not getting out of bed today. Like, what's the fucking matter with you? And I just looked at her and I went, no, because I can't help but be polite, because, like, she hadn't done anything wrong. I was like, no. And she went, I think you should give it a try. I think you could do it. And I was like, no. She goes, I've got a stoma too. And she was in her 70s.
Yeah.
And I looked at her and I thought, no. And I laid back down and I fell asleep. About an hour later, I looked at her again and I thought, if she can get her ass up, I fucking can. And I said to her, I'm going to get up. And she was like, go on then. And I went, how do I do it? And she went, you need to call the nurse and you need to get a Zimmer. Anyway, we did all of that. And I got myself out of bed and I sat on the chair and my blood pressure had dropped and I was really dizzy. And I remember sitting there and she said, I'll come and sit with you and we'll have a cup of tea then, shall I? And then our relationship then progressed. So we would sit up every morning and it would get me out of bed. And then she was progressing by walking around the ward, and she had a boyfriend on the ward next door, and she was like training herself to walk round to the ward. my God, it was so lush. She was a little window cleaner in the local village, and he used to wear Hawaiian shirts. It was great.
Oh my
Uh,
goodness.
I know they had a little love story, but that woman carried me through, and only when she left, she came over to say goodbye to me. And I said to her, I'm so grateful to you. Like, I really appreciate everything you did for me. And she said, I used to be a pediatric nurse, for 30 odd years. And I was like, I wouldn't be where I am without you. Like, I wouldn't have been. Like, she was just amazing. And so yeah, she like, all the nurses and like all those people like played like a really special part of my story. And like, I always remember them. Like, they were so significant in all of it. And because I was there for so fucking long, like, I got to know everybody. Like, the nurses used to come and bunk off in my room and watch Real Housewives with me. So, but
Must
yeah,
have
that's
been
how I ended
lovely
up with my stoma.
company. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think your attitude and yeah, your ability to laugh at it now is so commendable. But I think when you've been through that kind of things, it is that kind of, even when I was looking at your Instagram, I was laughing with you because I was like, if you don't laugh, you'll cry. There is literally like, you can let this overcome you and go to really dark places, or you can laugh about it. And it's something
Yeah.
that me and my mate, who both grew up with IBS, and like I had my stoma and stuff like that, it was always just jokes. Like every time
Yeah.
you saw something, and you had to, because it's just like, yeah, it's a horrible thing. It's a horrible thing. There's no lying about that. But you have the choice to laugh it off, make the best of it, or sit there and stew about it and let it overtake you. Don't let it beat you. And it sounds like you
I
were
know.
absolute inspiration to a lot of the nurses and everything like that in your hospital.
Yeah, I mean, I don't consider myself that at all, but I do, I do think that by speaking openly about things and discussing the hard topics, I think it's easier for people that are facing that surgery or, are struggling. Like, I get loads of people asking me about, because my marriage broke down and after my stoma surgery, mainly because I changed and various other things that happened in our lives. And I was like, I just don't want this for myself. Not because he's a bad man or, anything like that. I was like, I just don't want this life for myself anymore. I want more. And I've obviously started dating since then. And like, so many people are like, what is it like dating with a stoma? And like, having sex with someone new and, all this. And like, I'll just talk so openly about it because I'm like, people want to know and they need to know. And they need to know that because you have a stoma, I think there's been one man that has said to me, I actually can't handle that. And like, I've dated quite a few people. Do you know what I mean? Like, but, and I don't mean like, I'm not saying I've had sex with all of them because I haven't. But what I mean is that I've been very upfront and just said from the get go, look, this is a situation. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah.
And only one of them's been like, it's not for me, which again is fine. Like, that's totally fine too.
At least you didn't have to waste your time on him, and that's...
I'm not wasting my time.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a stoma is a stoma, but it keeps you fucking alive, mate. It's an amazing thing. It's an absolutely amazing thing, and it's fair enough if people can't handle it. Like, I remember the first time that I actually had sex with mine, and it was unbelievably terrifying and just like vulnerable and everything like that. But there's nothing, you either just don't do it or you have to get over that. And I'm very glad that I managed to make that step with the man that I trusted and that was very gentle with me and everything like that. And it makes all the difference. But on a relationship level, if you come up with anybody that doesn't accept you and doesn't accept the way you are, probably not the man for you. Do you know what I mean? It's
and that's fine. I'm like, let's move on. And I said, because it's not even just about the stoma either. It will be about the fact that you've got an illness that has, or for me it was, and that's okay. People have the right to choose that that's not for them. But like, I equally have the right to say, well, I'm not willing to accept that. I like your attitude around it either. I'm not willing to be like, let's wait and see how you go. No, absolutely not. That's not enough for me. So, and that's fine. So, I think that side of things really, and the things like what you're doing and discussing other people's stories, I think that reaches people because that will resonate with somebody. Not everyone's going to resonate with me, but what you're doing is speaking to lots of different people. So some parts of everyone's story will resonate with someone, won't it? and it will
Yeah,
help
well,
someone.
that's what I'm hoping. And every time I speak to another lady, I'm just blown away by how, like, the lady that I had the interview with yesterday, Rachel, she has the same kind of illness as yours, but her story is completely different because they caught it so early. They caught it kind of like a
Hmm.
teen. And then she was in that generation where they, like, the whole medical system was learning at the same time. So that they were
Yeah,
much
okay.
more open to kind of being like, okay, this is something that's new on the horizon, so we're kind of trying this and trying this. So she was on that reign, whereas you've been sort of like passed from hospital to hospital, not being listened to for a long time, which unfortunately is actually something that I'm coming up again and again.
Yeah,
And it's a real shame because I think doctors and nurses are the most incredible people in the world. I think they're
so
absolutely
do I.
amazing. But I think there is something very, very broken about our system.
It's not them, it's the system. It's not the
100%.
doctors and
And you
nurses.
know what you were saying about sort of like, oh, when I came out of the anaesthetist, they're like, they don't prepare you for that.
Hmm.
It's the reason that I'm kind of all doing this and started doing this is because when I was a kid, I was never told, and my parents were never told, and nobody's ever told that actually there is a high likelihood of you be coming out with trauma symptoms from surgery, especially as a
Yeah,
woman because of our hormone differences from different stresses in our lives and everything like that. And it's not part of pre-patient care, it's not part of post-patient care. And and some of the ladies I've met have spent years in this kind of confused state, feeling very disconnected with the world themselves, not being able to sort of get back to normal life and really struggling, all because of this surgery, which they had a good outcome. It's happened, it's done, and they feel guilty and ashamed that they can't move on, and they're not going to say
yeah.
anything about it because it's like, well, so many people get out and they're fine. Like, I'm is there something wrong with
What
me? Like,
happened?
yeah,
Yeah.
I just need to, you know what? I just need to suck it up. I just need to get on with it. Everybody else must be feeling like this. You know, this must be really normal. Like, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And it's sharing these stories that I'm coming up and I'm seeing all these different women that I'm just like, it's not normal. And it's something that I'm very passionate about, and I really want to petition to get into pre-patient care because it's all about choice. I get it that you don't want to you scare somebody before they go in, especially if they've got a child, but it's just like you can save years of their lives. We can reduce the mental health problems
Yep.
within the world, and it's just like I know it's not the nurses and doctors' job, but if we could just have like a counsellor that came in or something, because I was offered counselling, but it was never something that I was like, you should have counselling. It's just like, yeah, we have one. You can have it if you want. Do you know
Well,
what I
do you know
mean?
what? Interestingly, here, so I went through a bit of a patch, probably a couple of months after my stoma surgery, where I'd been on a high and then I'd hit an all-time low. And I said, I need some counselling, I need some therapy. And they were like, asked the stoma nurses, and they said, you can only get it. And I hate saying this, but I'm going to say it, and I will explain my reason behind it.
Mm.
You can only have it if you've had cancer, and like bowel cancer.
Yeah.
So, and I always say to people, like, having cancer is horrific, right? The same as any illness, right? It can kill you, it can take your life, it changes the world, it changes everything. But people with cancer get way more accessibility, get better treatment, get better patient care, they get free parking, all those things. Whereas someone with a lifelong incurable illness like I've got, there's nothing. Make it make sense. And I'm not saying that people with cancer shouldn't have counselling. That's absolutely not what I'm saying.
Yeah. But
But
it should be
everyone
open
should.
to, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's, yeah, just because it's a big C, it doesn't mean that it's, you know, that yours is any less or not lifelong or anything like
I've
that.
still
So,
been through the same surgery, you know?
yeah,
In fact, theirs was probably scheduled. Mine wasn't.
yeah,
So,
100%.
and I, again, there's no comparison. I'm not taking away from anyone. Whichever way you've had a stoma is traumatic. It doesn't matter, but it should be the same for everybody. And I remember being really shocked by that and really angry, and remember thinking, how is this fair or right or correct? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's just, I ended up paying for my own therapy in the end because I was so bloody traumatized that I just thought I need to, and I'd been off work for 6 months. I couldn't afford that. but I had to find the money to, and I'm very fortunate. I've got a really supportive family that are in a position to help. But yeah. Anyway, just quickly, when they took my bowel out, you asked if I had Crohn's or colitis. They biopsied both. They biopsied my bowel, and they said you've got signs of both Crohn's and colitis. So, based on my symptoms that I had, he said, I think that you've got Crohn's because I had like 60 odd mouth ulcers at one point, all in the throat, the skin, the inflamed joints, all of that sort of stuff. So it's basically a sit and wait because it's showing signs of both. So if obviously, touch wood, it goes to the small bowel, then that would show, or anywhere else, then that would show, because my whole large bowel's gone.
Yeah,
the lot's gone.
so basically you're almost waiting to sort of see what, if anything, kind of like comes out of that. Okay,
correct.
With this stoma, won't that kind of like that makes a difference anyway with the Crohn's, correct? It's sort of just like that sort of diverts kind of like some of the symptoms. So
yeah,
at least you've already got that in place. Because if you did have Crohn's, if they did come up and you did have Crohn's, would they be able to do anything else, or would it just be medication?
just medication. I think I don't know what else they could take because the whole large bowel's gone. So I was like, you've taken every part of me out of me. So.
I've got nothing left to give you.
Got nothing left.
Fair enough.
So, yeah, I don't know. And I do worry about that a lot in the future. I'm like, oh my God, what would happen? I let it wash over me, and then I'm like, okay, let's just get back to business because life's too short, right?
Every day is a blessing. You know.
Yeah.
That's future.
Yeah.
Problem.
Yeah. Until then, let's just go gallivanting and look at sunsets and have fun and go and just enjoy life. So that's what we're doing.
How has this whole experience changed your kind of outlook on life?
I always say quite dramatically, but actually, I've always been everyone, my whole life has always said to me, I walk around with like rose tinted glasses on, but I definitely think it's exacerbated it. I don't take as much shit as I used to. I probably never would have walked away from my marriage as easily as I did. I say no to things more. Like I say yes to things more. But I don't do things that don't bring me complete joy. Like that's definitely changed. And I'm better at self-preserving now. Like I used to be like, yes, I was a people pleaser, and I still am, like that's still in me. But I'm better at being like, no, I'm not going to do that. Thank you, but no, thank you. But yeah, I do. I just have always loved life. Like I'm the friend that you can, you see those memes on Instagram that's like, you can take me to church, you can take me for brunch, aggravated assault, like just go meet your parents.
Anywhere.
Yeah, I'm that friend. I'll do whatever you want. I'm game. So yeah, I think it's made me braver. It's made me stronger. As cliche as that is.
That's not cliche, babe. That's a testament to you. That's not cliche.
Yeah, it has. It's definitely, it's changed me in ways. And I always look at it and think, if this had never happened to me, what would my life look like? And would I be as happy as I am now? Because weirdly, I'm probably the happiest that I've ever been in my life. I feel very content.
Would you say that the experience kind of shifted the decisions in other parts of your life and made them easier to make, even that they kind of needed to be made? It was just sort of
I was coasting, like I said, with my ex-husband. We had a lovely life. He made lots of bad choices throughout our life and everything else. But, we got two beautiful children, which I absolutely just adore them. They are literally my pride and joy. They are the one thing that I will always be proud of. Like if I've done anything right in my life, it's those two. So I don't regret any of that. I have zero regrets. I have zero regrets about marrying him. But I just think, he always used to say to me, and it was actually really sad. I remember going for a walk with him one day, and he said, I always feel like I'm a footnote in your story, because you're just wild and free and just doing you. And he's like, and I remember being really hurt by that and thinking, I can't believe that he feels like that. But actually, maybe he was. And like, that's again, that's not him. He's not a bad man. Like I said, he's just not. But like, he wasn't as excited about things as I was. And he wasn't like, I'm like, let's go to the beach. And he'd be like, it's 8 o'clock on a Tuesday. And I'm like, don't care. Let's go. Pack
Yeah.
your stuff. Let's go. Um, and that's what I want from life, is something like that. That someone's just, and I don't expect it all the time. Life's not like that, right? But you know,
But
but it
yeah,
can
some
be.
people, yeah, it can be. That's the thing. I think lots of people do get stuck on that whole thing of life. Oh, life's not really like that. But it's just like, actually, it is.
Yeah.
If you want it to be like that, it can be. You just can't sit around expecting it to come to you. And it sounds like you're not,
No.
and you are just
No.
grabbing life by the balls. And it's a real shame to me that something massive sometimes has to happen in your life, something like this, to make you change, to
Yeah.
actually sort of click that switch and be like, nah, no more. I've been in and out of hospital for about 18 times now, and I've been in A&E in New Zealand 6 times over the last 6 years. And I got hit by a truck last year, and I stared at the ceiling being like, right, something's gotta give, Kim. Something's gotta fucking give, man. You need to do something about this. Because my hospital in Nelson, where I used to live, I had my own bed. They were like, Kim, you're back so soon. And I'm like, yeah, guys, hi. And
It's me again.
yeah, exactly. I love those nurses, and exactly what you said. Those nurses fucking pulled me through. And the people in my ward, they're all older, but they were beautiful. If I was crying, if I was sick, they were there for me. And they were kind of like the reason, like, if I got up, they'd be like, yes, girl, come on, round the corner, let's go.
Yeah.
And it is amazing. But I just like, I think if I could just flick this switch and stop this happening, and stop
Yeah.
gravitating towards my trauma and putting myself back in hospital every fucking year, that would be really nice. I feel like this is enough.
Yeah. Enough now.
Enough
Just enough.
now. Let's actually listen to ourselves, and let's actually make the change. And yeah, let's stop just ignoring the fact that you keep doing this. So yeah, I think it's amazing what you're doing after all of your experiences, just living life to the full, dating. I love it. Your story is absolutely inspirational. And yeah, whew, what a ride, man. What a ride. You're incredible for coming out with such a sunny, wonderful view on life. And as I said, I love your content and just your humor around it. It speaks to me, because it is always how I found it's best to get through these kind of nasty things, because humor
Yeah.
kills fear. Humor kind of kills that nasty sort of like damaging negative voice that creeps up into your mind. I
Yeah. It does.
I will share this with you. We might not be able to put it up, but when I got my stoma, the reason I got my stoma is from a climbing accident where
Oh, wow.
I got an 8-inch hole, extra asshole, shall we say? Yes. And yeah. And the doctors sort of, I got to A&E, and they were like, oh, we don't think it's that bad, and we don't really have any space, so we're just going to leave you here overnight, and then we'll sew you up in the morning. Don't worry about it. And they were like, there is a small chance you might end up with a stoma for a couple of months or something like that, but don't worry about it too much, because we're so sure it's not that bad. I woke up with a stoma, and then being like, oh my god, Kim, we are so sorry we left you on the bed for all night. That was so much worse than we thought. It was 8 inches deep. You're so lucky to be alive. You're so lucky to not be paralyzed. We're so sorry. And I was just like, what? Like the stoma, because it was just such a shock, and I was in
It's
such a bad
wild.
way, because it was the first time I've ever had a stoma. Like broken bones, I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, I've broken my bones, like had some scars, cuts and stuff, fine. But stoma was a different ball game, I mean, like, you know better than me, but like having your insides on the outside and just everything happening.
That's not normal.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah.
And I was on the phone to my girlfriend back at home and telling her what had happened. I was crying and everything like that, and she just stopped and went, "Well, that's the end of your anal porn career then, isn't it?" And I just cracked the fuck up, and it just snapped me out of this stupid sort of self-pity, miserable state. And I was like, God damn, I didn't even think about that. So, you know, and it's that kind of humor and having those wonderful people around you, like your next door neighbor and those nurses that kind of just bring you back to not reality, but kind of bring you back to like, it might be a shit time, but it's not a shit life, and you will get through this.
No.
Like just those wonderful people. So yeah, I love the way that your attitude around this whole situation. It's magic.
I know, and you know, it does make me laugh, and I do think that one of my best friends, Kaylee, who I go out dog walking with every day, fucking hell, she had me in tears. I think it was probably, I hadn't told anyone I had a stoma, like I was just completely off the wall, like I hadn't really spoken to anyone because it was all so fast. No, literally for like 20 years. Anyway, when she found out, she obviously came round and she went, first thing she went, is it too soon to give you a nickname? And I was like, right, come on, just tell me what it is. And she went, Shitbag Charlotte. Wow, fucking hell. I was crying, Shitbag Charlotte. So, and it stuck.
Oh,
And
goodness.
and so I'm dating this guy. I've been dating with him for, I don't know, a couple of months now. Lovely guy. And I told him about my stoma. And anyway, she bought me a lanyard to put my keys on. It says Shitbag Charlotte on it. Cause fucking hell, we were really laughing. Anyway, he picks them up and he went, what the fuck have you got? What's this? And I was like, oh, my friend calls me Shitbag Charlotte. And he was like, right, okay. Of course, since I've been dating him, he's obviously, I told him I had a stoma straight off the bat. And then 2 weeks later, I was told that I had to have my Barbie butt surgery done. And I was like, by the way, I'm going to have my Barbie butt surgery done. So if you want to just cool things off for now, like, and we'll just pick it up like after, because it's good. And he was like, I'll just see you at badminton on Tuesday. Like, that was his response. And I was like, okay, right. So we're just carrying on then. And then I think it was 2 weeks after that, I went to see the gynecologist and she was like, we're going to put you into a forced menopause for a month just to trial like how your body responds. And I was like, right. So I go back to this guy again for the third time, like, now I'm in the menopause. He's just like that. All right, what do you want for dinner tonight then? And I'm just like, right. He's just so like blasé about the whole thing, like so chill. And I'm like, right. And he goes, so when you have your Barbie butt surgery, he goes, I've Googled it. He goes, so no anal ever again? He was like, is it just closed forever? And I was like, yeah. He goes, are we going to have a party, like a send-off party? What's the situation here? Like, no. I said, it's fucking inflamed up there. Like, you ain't going near it, mate. Like,
it's just like, fuck, that would hurt so much.
I was like, you probably feel a staple in there or something. Like, he was like, really? I was like, wow, that's what they've done. They've stapled it.
Yeah. For him. Oh my goodness. I love that, like, that he is, obviously he sounds very chill, but he did take the time to Google it and sort of see what was happening to you. And he obviously likes you more above and beyond anything that's happening to you. And I mean, the nurses are trying really hard to give you excuses to push him away, to be perfectly honest. Just like,
I know.
We're going to do this to you, this to you. And you're like, and it's
keep trying. I know, I keep trying. I'm like, just to let you know.
They're testing him for you. They're testing him for you, I think.
I think so, like, because I'm just like, how is he still here? You know, because I'd said to him, I was like, they want to do my Barbie butt surgery. I don't want to talk about it, but like, I just completely understand. Like, I would not hold it against you because we've only been dating, like, I think we've only been dating like 3 weeks at this point. So best kind of just to walk away now and like, if you're still single in a couple of months or whatever, like, fine. And he's like, I'll see you at badminton. It just really made me laugh. I was just like, fucking hell, all right then. And off we went to badminton.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, good man. Good man. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm going to wrap this up with just asking a final question. What have you learned from this experience? What if you could, if this happened again, God, I hope it never happens to you again, but like, what are the key lessons? What would you love to have learned before this happened? Or sort of like things about advocating for yourself or just anything like that? What
Oh,
are sort of like three little things or even one big thing, anything that you can sort of
the
pass
big
on to somebody?
one big thing that I never did was really advocate for myself. I was too afraid to piss people off to get what I wanted. Not what I wanted, what I needed. Um, I didn't put in complaints. I didn't do the things that I should have done to get the support that I needed. I'm not saying it would have changed the outcome, but I think I would have got there a lot quicker and probably a lot safer than I did. I do say that to people all the time. Do not stop shouting. And I mean if you have to shout, and I mean actually shout, shout. If you need to go to the ends of the NHS to get what you need, do it. Or get someone else to do it for you. I was like, I'll fucking do it for you. Like, I'll fucking ring. I've offered for it for people before, like when they've been too sick. I'm like, I'll fucking ring them. Like, and I'll sit on the phone. Just do it. Like, because I didn't, and I wish that I did.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's something that's coming back to me several times. I I had hip replacement surgery when I was younger, and I'm on a lot of their hip replacement groups. And there's so many like 20-year-olds, 22-year-olds that have been in pain for like 5, 6 years, and they're being told like, "Oh yeah, but you're young, so just wait." And I'm like, this has stopped your whole life. You were in so much pain. You can't do
Yeah, no.
anything. Like, don't settle for this. Find a fucking surgeon that will do this. You need it. Waiting around, what are you doing? Just burning life.
Yeah, I
And yeah,
agree.
it's just advocating for yourself is just like they've told you you need it, so get it done. Um,
Yeah,
and unfortunately, it is our society that has brought us up to be like, don't upset the system. Like, if you upset yourself, if you shout out, people just won't like you. You won't get the help you need. And it's just like, well, I'm not getting the help I need, just being silent either. So
yeah,
yeah, yeah, I'm with you on that one.
totally agree. I don't believe in being like, you'll be on the same page. I don't believe being rude to the nurses and to the
Oh
doctors.
hell no.
Um, but I do believe in just keep like, because half the time the doctors and that don't even know you exist or need help because they don't know, because you can't get to them because of the fucked up system. So it's not their fault. I
Mm.
don't blame the people within the NHS. I blame the whole big system, the people sat in the high up places.
Yeah, in the offices, pulling the strings. Yeah, I'm 100%. The NHS for me is still the best thing about England, and I cannot be more grateful to the NHS for everything it's done in my life.
100%.
But yeah, it is. There is
They
just
saved my life.
something that, yeah, 100%. Many times they've saved my whole family's life at one point, but it is just
Yeah.
something about this system that we have to look at a different way of putting people through the system, getting the help they need, and actually also trusting people. I know that there is a lot of people that come and yeah, they're hypochondriacs or whatever like that, but it doesn't discount that they might actually be sick. And that
Yes.
judgment, that moment of judgment and that moment of sort of brush off. I mean,
Yeah.
you had exactly that experience being brushed off again and again and again with steroids. It's just like,
Which is
yeah,
wild because all my bloods and everything, even then, my test results were coming back like she's sick, like all the
wow.
levels and everything were up. Just take some steroids, you'll be fine. And I ended up, actually, it's probably another interesting thing for you to write down, which you probably don't know about, is you might do actually. I was on such high levels of steroids that my adrenal glands shut down. So they
Oh,
had
wow.
to do a test on me afterwards because I couldn't come off my steroids for months after I came out of surgery. I had to keep having these tests done. And that's something that I had no idea about. And I had
So,
to be given this emergency injection so that if I was ever sick, like physically sick, I'd have to inject myself and go to A&E. My adrenal glands did eventually wake up after about 8 months,
wow.
and I was able to wean off the steroids. But yeah,
So the steroids shut them down?
correct. Where my body had stopped producing I can't remember what hormone it is. It stopped producing a hormone. And basically, because it was being given a synthetic one, my body was like, okay, I don't need to produce that anymore. So
Oh,
I'm
so
just
it
going to
just
stop.
stopped. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, cause and effect with that kind of thing. Oh yeah,
Hmm.
that's absolute gold, because yeah, that's not something you would think about, to be honest, eh?
I'll send you some information on it, but so you can have a read on it. But yeah, very interesting.
Oh wow. Okay, yeah, that's amazing. Thank you so much. Is there any other little day-to-day things of having a stoma that you would love to pass on? To be
Blow
honest.
dry your bag after a shower.
Oh, okay. I never
I
did
do
that
my
one.
hair, blow dry my bag.
Okay.
Um, yeah, don't do it too hot like I did. I melted my bag once. It was a whole fucking disaster, but there was shit everywhere. Um, and put a bag underneath, like a nappy sack underneath your bag when you're changing it. I used to shit on my socks all the time when I was changing my bag. You know, like
Mm.
if you take your bag off and you're trying to clean it and stuff, I just tuck a bag in there because I shit on my socks, shit on the floor.
Yeah, I
Um,
really wish I'd known that when I had mine, because I used to lie in my bed and just let it go crazy and be like, ah, just, just be like, stop, just a second, just please stop
that's
for a second,
bad.
just control yourself. Yeah, that would have been really good to know. Well, thank you so
Yeah,
much, Ali. This has been
oh,
a
it's been lovely.
fantastic chat, and